Hey, all right, people, we're back again. Hey, this time I want to go over more in depth what happens in the last part of the Something to Fear story arc in the comics. And a quick little prediction of mine of what I think is going to happen in the first episode based on that. So here we go. Spoiler warning, comic book spoiler warnings. If you don't want to know anything about it, then go away now. Okay, so in the comic, Glenn's the one who dies. Obviously, most of you know that by now. And Maggie loses her shit on Rick. Beats him down. And then Carl ends up pulling his gun on Maggie, and Sophia ends up tackling Carl and biting Carl. And then cooler heads prevail. They wrap Glenn up, and they head to the hilltop because Maggie wants to bury him there. Her and Sophia are moving there. While they're there, Rick tells Jesus and Gregory what happened. And Gregory's first response is like, did you say anything about me? Did you say anything about our plan or whatever? Be like, inquiring, did you sell me out? And Rick just starts wailing on him. And then Jesus breaks it up. I think that's about it. Then they split. They go back home. Jesus goes with them. They go back to Alexandria. And they get to Alexandria and find that Alexandria was attacked. Andrea successfully defended the attack, which was led by Dwight. And not only did she defend Alexandria, she captured Dwight. So Rick tells them what happened, and everybody's out for blood. Like, everybody, Andrea especially, she's pissed. She wants Negan's blood. She wants Dwight's blood. And when Rick says, we got to let him go, like Rick calls a meeting and says, we got to let him go, they're pissed. And Rick and Jesus are quietly, like, plotting on, learning as much as they can about Negan and the Saviors and finding their weaknesses and then striking when the iron's hot. Instead of forcing it like they tried last time, they're going to lay back, they're going to submit for right now and just go along with Negan and wait for their opportunity. And he eventually convinces Andrea that he has a plan. He's not just being a bitch. And she finally cools down. The Something to Fear story arc ends with Dwight walking away from Alexandria or being released and walking away with this smug-ass look on his face. And Rick's at the gate, just shaking his head like, fuck this. Okay, now this is what I think is going to happen. I think that Maggie's going to move to the hilltop, but I think there's one of two scenarios. One, either the doctor there says, I need you here because you need to be monitored closely, or bed rest or something along those lines. So basically doctor's orders. And or maybe she loses the baby. Maybe she has a freaking miscarriage. Maybe she had a miscarriage on that floor that night and lost the fucking baby. And then lost Glenn. And they have to do like an emergency D&C or something like that to remove the baby. And she ends up staying at the hilltop. And that would be tragic. I also have another scenario. Here's another big spoiler warning for the story arc coming up. Eventually Dwight, if it's portrayed as it is in the comic, is going to become an inside man for Rick, Ezekiel, and Jesus, and he's going to help Rick beat Negan. I have a theory that if that's the case, Daryl has to die. Because Daryl is never, especially now after Dwight shooting him, he's never going to accept Dwight on the home team, ever. So my theory is Mark is going to take Daryl's place. You guys will learn more about Mark. I'll talk about him in the next story arc, which is called What Comes After. Now, if, let's say, as we know, Dwight wasn't at the second raid on Alexandria because he was with them at the lineup when Glenn got killed in the show. But what if, let's say, he and a small group of Saviors show up at Alexandria the next morning when Rick and them are still at the hilltop. And then knock, knock, bitches, hey, let us in, we want our stuff. and Gabriel and Spencer and everyone at the hilltop is like, fuck you, and they start shooting them and capture Dwight. That's one way they could get Dwight and Daryl not be there to fly off the handle and kill him. Because for the next story arc to end well, Dwight has to be released. Because Jesus is gonna do something that needs to happen for the next story arc to fulfill its destiny. I mean, assuming they stick to the comic book. So another option would be, so that's one scenario. Maybe they have Dwight show up on a run the next day when Rick and them ain't there, and they haven't got there yet, and nobody at Alexandria knows what happened, and then they just open up and capture Dwight. Or another scenario is possibly Mark is leading a second attack at the same time Glenn's being killed that night, and Mark is taken captive. And then Rick gets back and finds out, and then basically the same situation plays out as it did in the comic, you know. We got to let him go, and this is what happens, and blah, 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 and then they show him leaving, and that's the end of episode 1. I do believe this story arc will be completed in episode 1. I don't think there's enough to, maybe a 90-minute premiere might be a little slow. Anyways, that's all I got for you. Like, share, and subscribe to my next video. You guys have a great day. I'm out.